What's up? Kevin, hello, how's it going? Can you hear me? I think you can. I think you can. You know what we should be doing right now?
We got nothing to lose, keep it 100, I'm just being honest. Hey, 1 minute, that's a pinky promise. Hey, kick it with me and your schedule going non-stop. You my number one, no contest. Hey, don't you keep me waiting, losing patience. All I'm saying, I just need a minute of your attention, love and affection. Make that connection. I just need a minute of your time. I just need a minute of your time. I just need a minute of your time.
Doom Tribe, thank you for the 14th month. And Jackie Stacky for the 4th at tier 3.
You drive me crazy, yeah. I just need to be by your side, your side. 60 seconds, baby, yeah.
Jackie Stacky, a robot army captain.
I just need a minute of your time. Yeah. City,
Thank you,
baby.
Jackie. And Doom.
Gianni Kyle. First team, bitch.
And opener for the 18th month. There it is, opener. You now have the 18-month badge. The golden badge right there. There's only 3 people that have it right now, as far as I'm aware. That's me, Dippin'
Are you
Dots,
wasted again?
and opener.
Staying out late with your friends.
Live for the 6 months. Thank you so much.
What's so important that you gotta call me this late? I've been working on a mixtape.
This is one of my favorite songs
All
on the
about
album.
history, a 5th day, what a mistake. You're gonna miss me. Now we're up all night, just like old times, talking about the way
Make sure you
it was.
check out Hoodie
You were tryna
Allen's
hurt my pride,
album,
cut
Whatever
off
USA.
ties. Are you tryna hang it
And go
up?
see him on tour.
I was thinking we could get together, try to figure
Still
it
touring the
out.
country right
You said
now.
you weren't ready just yet. Now I'm standing in the middle, sick of waiting around. Won't you tell me what comes next? If you want it, you can have my heavy heart. You can
All
put
right.
it back together.
Looks like we have
You can tear my
27
limbs
viewers
apart. If you leave it,
for this circle. I was wondering how many people
you got no
would come.
place to
It's a very new
go.
show,
You can
and there's 2
fly
seasons to watch.
California. You can have some time alone.
Oh, no,
Just
never mind.
let me know.
127. Not 27, 127. That's a lot more than I expected. I misread that number.
When you left me, I was broken, made me less than who I am. Had me crawling with excuses, got these bruises on my hands. Told me everything was perfect. Was
Play games. I'm definitely looking to play some games on here.
grass is always greener. Why
Um,
on the fence? I've been up for 20 nights thinking
we're gonna wrap up the Big Brother coverage.
clouds. Thought you wanted all or nothing, baby.
And there's, I want to talk Circle. I want to talk Challenge. I want to talk Survivor. But I also want to get some games going. I want to make sure. I want the Twitch. Twitch is gonna be going. It's gonna be popping. Matt, thank you for the 100 bits. Yeah, the US version is coming to Netflix. 2020. I'm definitely interested. I what I want to do is cover that via podcast if I can. Because, and like, hopefully it doesn't suck, right? But I'm definitely looking to do that. I haven't talked to Rob about it, but I told him I like the show. Pop. Thank you, Daquan. And Inwigo. Subscribe for the second month. Thank you. So if you need to know how to watch The Circle, I'll definitely start with that. I'll, reset what it is, how to watch it. But then we're going to get into spoilers for the most recent episode after that. So I'll let you know before we get into any spoilers. But until then, we'll just kind of let you know what this is about for those that are just kind of jumping in here and curious. EVM for the second month, thank you. And So Fine Vegas. No, So Fine in Vegas. So Fine. I was close. Thank you for the second month. All right, so we're here for The Circle. City John, love hanging with you and the crew. Thank you for all that you do. And you know what's weird is I've been watching The Circle, and now like every message I get is like I'm reading it like it's from The Circle. It's so weird. Oh, so nice chatting with you. Kiss. Daquan. One more month, the 17th month, a robot army. Captain, thank you, Daquan. Very much appreciated. Daquan, a leader in the community. And Pollyanna for the 5th month. Thank you so much. So Fine in Vegas was right. Nice. The Nicole interview was a treat. Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed talking to Nicole. It was great. We had some connection issues, but I chopped that out of the video for the most part. But it was really fun. I really she seemed to enjoy it a lot too. And like I was extremely impressed with how much she remembered from, because like usually I have to explain like a lot of the context about what was happening each week in order to like get their memories going. But Nicole was like a co-host. Like I literally queued it up and she just went. I didn't even have to ask her sometimes. It was great. Your thoughts have a British accent when you watch The Circle so much. Yes, so let's talk about The Circle. The Ahoy Toy. Thank you for the 3rd month. Very much appreciated. So The Circle is a show. It's a little bit like Big Brother. It's a competition reality show, social strategy, where 8 people go into a big building. It's like an apartment building, and they are in soundproof rooms, and they are isolated. They never see another person physically in their entire experience. They are by themselves. Their only means of communication is through a special social media platform created for them by the show called The Circle. And the only other people on this platform are the other people in the building that they cannot see or hear. And so they have a profile. They choose a photo, and they write a little bio, and then they can chat with the other players in the game via The Circle. So they can have the circle chat is the one big, it's like the group chat. Everybody's involved. You can talk with everybody. Apart from that, you can start private conversations with individuals within the circle. You see their profile picture, and that's about it. And then you can also have group chats, like more specific group chats, where you can call it something like Scholar Squad or something along those lines. And you can invite more than one person to those sorts of things. And that's how all of the social interaction is done. Something else that we've learned is that these conversations are limited. You only have a certain amount of chatting time during the day. So you can't just be talking all the time. Most of the time, I assume you're just kind of chilling by yourself, doing puzzle and racing remote control cars and, making silly noises. So that's how you interact. Then the game part is that every elimination cycle, you either rate or rank the other players in the game based on your interactions with them, your perception of them, your relationship to them. So this is not really a spoiler, but in the first season, it's a rating, 1 out of 5 stars. In the second season, it's a ranking. You rank all of the players from your favorite to your least favorite. So it's a little bit of a combination of like the round table forms, right? So the two people that get the highest ratings or rankings, they become influencers. They get a little blue tick, as they call it. Oh, I've got a tick. Got a tick. It's weird. And those two people then decide from the rest of the players who to block. Those two players have to agree to block somebody else in the game. That's generally how it works. Now, this is a very twist-heavy show. Typically how it works is there's two influencers. They choose how to block. But often there are little twists and turns added, like, there was a super influencer once where it was just one person. Sometimes, sometimes it's just whoever's ranked the lowest just goes. Sometimes it's, all sorts of like little twists here and there. The point, though, is that you want to be well liked by everybody else. You want to be protected by people that are popular. And you don't want to be unpopular. It's generally the way to avoid being blocked. So then every time somebody leaves, now this is the sort of UK format kind of coming in here. They start with 8 players. Every time somebody leaves, somebody new comes in. And so they stay at around 8 players for most of the season until they finally announce no more players are entering the circle. Now is time to cut down to the final 4. And at that point, nobody else joins anymore. I'm not super fond of this myself, but it kind of works. Kind of works for the most part. And so then once they get down to the final 4, there is one final ranking/rating. And the person with the highest score wins. The first season, it was $50,000. In the second season, $100,000. Or I should say pounds. Which actually does make a difference. And in the first season, there was also an audience prize. I assume there's going to be one as well in the second season. And also, I'm assuming that's how it works in the second season because we're not quite there yet. So that's the show. It's super interesting. So what makes it even more interesting is that, as I said, you only interact with people via the circle, via, your profile picture, your bio, and whatever you type in the chat. So what happens is there are people that go in as catfish. They're pretending to be somebody that they're not. They're using a photo that is not them, and they are playing a role, essentially. And usually they're doing this because they think that they can be more popular in this particular role. So if you feel like you're not a very popular person, you can pretend to be somebody more popular. Pretend to be an attractive single person who can flirt with people and get them on your side. Something along those lines. And then what often creates really interesting moments is that when somebody is blocked, they then have the opportunity to go and meet one of the players from the circle in person on their way out. They don't get to talk to anybody afterward, so it will not affect the game, but it does make for some good TV if they go and meet somebody who is actually a catfish. Fun times. So there are lots of fun moments like that, lots of interesting stuff. I highly recommend it. It's very fun. It's 18 episodes for the first season, somewhere around 20 or so, it seems, for the second season. But man, it's interesting and it's really fun. And a lot of people seem to be catching on. Netflix has picked up the premise of this show. They've bought the whatever, and they have now cast for a season in the US and plan on airing it at some point in 2020. So honestly, if they are able to do this right, I think this could really land well in the US. Love Island did not land. Love Island is huge in the UK. It did not land in the US. It did not work. I don't know Love Island, the UK version. I don't know of it. I don't know what it was that was lost in translation, but I do feel like this concept is really interesting, and it doesn't seem outdated like Love Island seems outdated. It does, like Love Island could have been made in 2000 or it could have been made today. It's the same sort of thing, but this is a really interesting concept, and I think that the idea of catfishes and the fact that it is a game and it's about popularity, that I think will strike a chord with the US audience as long as they don't totally screw it up. Make it about audience voting or something. That'd be real dumb. So that's The Circle. If you are interested in watching it, I would recommend you start at season 1 because it's definitely worth watching, and you will be spoiled for season 1 if you start season 2. You can watch it. There are links. You can find it on Dailymotion for the most part. You can also, if you're a Big Brother Canada watcher, then you know that you can generally go to the website for these shows and use a little magic to get those videos to work. But if you are curious, there are plenty of people in the chat, and also if you're a subscriber, people on the Discord who are willing to help you out, help you figure it out. So that's what I would recommend. Since the narrator is such a big part of The Circle UK, do I have any thoughts on who could fill that role for Netflix? I don't know. Is the narrator, the UK narrator, somebody like famous, like that people would know, or is it just a random voice actor? By the way, for season 2, The Circle is all up on YouTube, easily accessible. So season 2 of The Circle is very easy to watch. But I would recommend starting at season 1 if you are interested. Cremona, thank you for the 3rd month. What's up, Darkendorf? Yes, you can bring pets into The Circle. You can bring babies into The Circle. So that's The Circle. I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I definitely want to cover the US version when it comes, if that's on the table. So, with all of that being said, let's talk about it, because I want to talk details here. An episode of Circle, I think the length varies, but it's around an hour each episode. Yeah, so I guess if any other questions before we get into spoilers, we can answer a couple more before we go. Am I under the weather? Yeah, a little bit. I've been like just a little bit sick, basically since California. The day that I did the Cliff and Tommy interviews, I podcasted for like somewhere over 8 hours straight. And that definitely took a toll on my voice. What do they do all day? Just hang out. They're incredibly bored. I don't know how long they can talk per day, and I don't know how many chats they have. But I'm definitely interested. Why no video for Tommy? Well, we hadn't normally done video for postseason interviews in the past. But we ended up doing Cliff live with a video, and I figured it'd be fun to have Nicole on video. So the problem with the video is it takes a lot longer to process and to edit. So like, for instance, the Nicole interview had a few different points where the connection completely crapped out on us, and we had to do a lot of troubleshooting. That just would not have flown live. And what you saw happened with Cliff as well, where we had to stop down and then come back. So that didn't really work live. And so those moments, much more difficult to edit when there's a video. Takes a lot more time and effort. Whereas with audio, it's just like, boom. But I know you guys like them, so I will try to continue to get them for you when I can. I don't know how Netflix is going to do it. I would imagine they'll just release like an episode a day, like the UK does, but I don't know. It's a weird format. I did see the video that Alex did. They do have notebooks, yes. That's one of my favorite parts. They're taking notes the whole time, which I definitely have like a spot in my heart for. Because that's what I would be doing as well. I'd literally be writing down every single thing anybody ever said. That I'd transcribe all of the chats. So yeah, the second season is airing daily. I believe it has 4 or 5 episodes left. The only day it doesn't air, Saturday, today. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing the stream today, because otherwise it's like when I talk about it like right before, right after, it goes out of date so quick. But it's a fun show, and I've got another surprise. I've got somebody else here that wants to talk about it with me. Hey, it's Aman. How you doing? Oh crap! Now I can't hear him. I can't hear you, Aman. I could hear you for a second.
Wait.
Ah, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my mic was off. My bad. Hello, everybody. Hi, Taryn.
Hey, what's up?
Sorry I'm late.
No worries.
Really, really busy, but I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here.
So Aman, I told Aman about the circle the last time I did a stream, and he is now fully caught up.
Oh, how far we have come. Oh, how far.
Yes.
It's been quite a ride this past couple of days. I have now successfully binged the first season in its entirety, and now I am all the way caught up as of today, all the way caught up on season 2, or shall I say series 2, as they say over there. And it's good. It's a fantastic fucking show, man.
Yes.
It's just so good.
All right, so I just explained what it is and why people should watch. So we're gonna get into the spoilers for season 2. If you are not caught up, now would be a good time to leave. We'll probably also mention things from season 1. So if you haven't watched everything from The Circle and you don't want to be spoiled, then you can leave now. You can come back once you're caught up to episode 16 of season 2. Come back and watch this later if you want, or whatever it is that you want to do. But we will be talking about the details and everything else. So there's your warning. we don't have a song, but there it is.
I know, like I feel like if you guys end up talking about The Circle, you're gonna have to have like a whole new spoiler song, because I just feel like it warrants it.
All right. So do you want to just like briefly talk about season 1 before we get into season 2?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'm down. I'm game.
I loved Alex. I was like right from the beginning, I was just like, oh, this is great.
Honestly, Taryn, he reminded me a lot of you. You guys even kind of like share similar facial characteristics. So it's kind of uncanny. So yeah, he was definitely my favorite going in. I liked the very tactical. There's so many new words that are used over there. I like the very tactical and cerebral approach he took to the season. He was the guy that decided to go in as a girl. And not just any girl, but his girlfriend. Well, just the picture of his girlfriend. His girlfriend's name is Melly, but he decided to go under the name Kate while he was in the circle. And it was very, very interesting, because you see how in the beginning it's a bit of a learning curve. Obviously, there are things that girls talk about that men don't necessarily talk about on a day-to-day basis, and he sort of had to get accustomed to that. But he definitely was. I was rooting for him since the very beginning, and I was very pleased with how things turned out. So
yeah, it's super interesting to me, and obviously like Alex is the first case that we'll see, but I think we see it with every subsequent catfish as well, that being a catfish is a lot more difficult than you might imagine, because Alex, he goes in as Kate, very popular at first, he's doing a great job, but there are a couple of problems that occur when you are a catfish in this game, especially if you're one for a long time. The first is that you kind of become very one-dimensional, because it's easy to think like, hey, I'm going to pretend to be somebody else. Easy. Kate, as a girl, she likes this, she does this, she feels this way about this. Great, I've got a whole personality. But that's not, like, when you're talking with people over the course of 3 weeks, and that's like all you have to do to keep yourself sane, you're going to be talking about a lot more than just a couple of like facts that you can list off in your head. Even if you have a notebook filled with things, you have to be able to, like, there has to be a personality behind it. There has to be a soul behind it. And if you are not able to incorporate your own personality into the catfish, then it's going to fall flat. It's going to appear very one-dimensional. You're either going to be very obvious that you're a catfish, or you're going to be seen as just a really boring person and be booted off. Or both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing that I liked about the way that he went about it was he did sort of like want to wrap it inside the truth. But I think that the problem that he ran into was playing as a girl. Women do sometimes have the unfortunate part of their existence where they have to constantly sort of like deal with men making passes at them, even if they seem to be, benign or innocent. It's a thing that a lot of women have to deal with. And so he sort of had to find the balance between, letting his own personality shine through Kate, especially when it comes to building relationships with other players that are men, namely Dan, but also holding back just enough so that it doesn't go into this romantic territory, because it's sort of, I feel like if Alex were a gay man or a bisexual man, that probably might not be as difficult a hurdle to jump. Granted, he still has a girlfriend outside of the house, but to be a straight man catfishing as a straight woman and then having to deal with straight men as a straight woman as a straight man is just a series of hurdles that is, I just feel like it's very debilitating mentally. And you could see, through the progression of the season, he just sort of like was beginning to break down. He just wanted the truth was just weighing on his shoulders so much. He just wanted to let it out, but you can't, because once you're so far in, it's the harder and harder it is to sort of like, come out with the truth. So it was very interesting to see him have his moments of like, pure strategical finesse and being the influencer, and then having that fall from grace, and then having to deal with all of the criticisms of being one-dimensional, but not really having anything to combat that, because you can't start being a different person halfway through the season. So it was interesting. It was very interesting to watch.
Yes, and Nola, thank you for the 11 months, and I am Curious Purple for the 3rd month. Thank you both so much for the support. But yes, that brings me into the second part of the second difficulty of being a catfish, which is the emotional distress that it causes you. Whether it's the guilt, you see Alex at first, flirting with the guys, and that being like this is working, but like, it's so like it's cringy, to the point where Alex is feeling so bad for lying about who he is that he is like trying to be like don't stick up for me, Dan, like watch out for yourself. Like, yeah, it really starts to eat at you, the guilt of what you're doing, the fact that you're having genuine conversations with people but actually you're lying to them. Like, it sounds like so much fun to like be like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna be a catfish, it's gonna be great, it's a game, but then when you're there, like actually having to live a lie is a lot more difficult than I think people anticipate. And it's not something that I anticipate. When I was like, this guy's gonna have so much fun all season long, this is gonna be great. But then like so quickly it just eats at you, and we're seeing it happen in season 2 as well with Sammy, to a degree. It seems like he's kind of come around on it, but really, when it comes to the catfish thing, I think in terms of like how to make one work, I think it has to be just a minor thing. You can't be coming up with a whole new personality. It has to be you with a different wrapping, because you can't fake a different personality. It has to be you, otherwise it just won't work. And yeah, like everything else as well. Like I think that like there's also like Alex was called a fence sitter, and that brings like the strategy of the game into it, where the purpose of the game, the strategy of the game, the tactics of the game is to be popular. And in order to be popular, you generally want to be a people pleaser. You want people to like you. And in order to do that, you're usually you agree with them. You tell them that they're great and they're smart and all of these things. But people start to catch on to that. And so you have to walk this fine line between being genuine and being opinionated while still people pleasing and making people like you. Basically, you have to people please in a stealthy way so that people don't see what you're doing, because otherwise you'll get in trouble for it. And I feel like Sean was very good at that on season 1.
Yeah, Sean was very good at that, sort of like being, everybody's sort of like best friend in a sense, and being somebody that people can go to and like sort of just, talk things through with. And I feel like, Alex/Kate had a difficulty with that because, it was always like, I mean, like one dimensional, and also just like you could, I mean, especially when you have people in there like Freddie that are just, just so brash and blunt and to the point. And also with Dan, just hashtag direct Dan. Like when you have people like that are in that chat and they come off that way, and then you juxtapose it with somebody like Alex, it's just you're gonna see the differences. And I just feel like even as far as the private messages are concerned, because you can group message with people, you can private message with people. I feel like somebody like Sean, is in a bunch of private messages, having different conversations with different people, and she has the luxury of being herself and not catfishing, so she can sort of have honest conversations, as honest as possible, as strategically possible, and sort of foster good relationships. Whereas somebody like Alex, like, I didn't even looking back on the season, I don't even really remember him really even trying to initiate those kinds of conversations with other people privately. I feel like he would wait for people to come to him, because then at that point it's like, okay, I can work with the information that I'm receiving versus me trying to go out and create this whole personality with somebody else and create alliances. And it's very sticky and challenging. But Sean did do a very good job at that.
Yeah, Alex was interesting because he was very strong early on, and then the guilt of what he was doing broke him down. He got caught up in one of the trivia questions, and it became kind of obvious that he was a bit of a catfish as people learned what a catfish was and how they tended to operate. And then after that point, like, he kind of just settled into his own personality, and that in a way won people over, even though they kind of already knew he was a catfish. And he then got dragged along to the end where, almost by being the most unpopular person of the 4 of them, he won because of how the ratings work. And because basically at the end, there were 4 of them. They chose to rate 1 out of 5 stars. If you're voting tactically, then you would basically just rate everybody else 1 star. Nobody did that.
Surprisingly. Right.
But Freddie and Alex rated each 2 1-star people and 1 2-star per person, and the 1 2-star person Freddie rated was Alex at 2 stars. I really want to ask him why he did that, because that actually cost him the win. But basically, because they were the ones that rated so low, Direct Dan was, I'm gonna rate, not tactically. He basically, took himself completely out of the running by giving Sean and Alex 5 stars, and then Freddie 4. And then Sean gave Dan and Freddie 3s and Kate a 2. So Kate got 2 2s and a 5, and that was enough for Kate to win, because nobody really anticipated that Kate would win. In fact, I don't think the audience anticipated it either, because I don't know. I feel like they would have given Dan the money if they had thought that Alex would win already.
Yo, Dan was just completely he was. I mean, what's the male version? Enigmatized. I don't even. He was just so far into the idea of Kate, and it was so interesting, because towards the end of the season, they play one of those the questions games or whatever, and he asks them, "Are you a catfish?" And he wanted, because he had big suspicions that Alex was that Kate was a catfish, and he just wanted her to lie so that he would be justified in being upset with her. But you still, even with all those reservations, you still gave her 5 stars, and it was just like, I'd be interested to see that process too, because like I don't understand if you wanted to set, if you were looking to put her in a trap, but you could only be pissed off with her after you vote, then what was the point of setting up the trap? Like, I just feel like you're just setting yourself, you're just making your own self mad at that point.
Well, I think it's a form of protection. It's like you know what? Like, I'm giving you the ball. Like, here it is. Like, it's yours now, just so you know. But I'm gonna be really angry with you if you screw me on this. But once you get into that mode, you kind of just have to give them everything in order to feel justified with your response. Because if you hold back in any way, then it's like, well, I mean, come on, you didn't trust me fully, right? Like, hey, like, you didn't give me 5 stars. Like, you can't be that mad at me because, you know. So I feel like that was part of it. And I want to say thank you to Hawk Dog for the 4th month of subscription. But yeah, it was really interesting, the way that Dan operated in the game. He basically, he was like, you know what? Here's the thing, Kate, even if you are a catfish, you're such a cool person. I don't even care. It's going to be fine. But then it's one thing to say that. It's another thing to see Alex and be like, Freddie? Kate.
You know what? Production did a good job with the lineup of how...
Oh, yeah.
The order of who was revealed to who, and you know, watching Alex walk into that room already with his like shoulders up to his ears, like like this is gonna be so bad, and like even like to the point where Dan was still willing to give Kate the benefit of the doubt by calling him Freddie. He was like, "There's no way this has to be Freddie. Like he just looks different from his pictures, but no, it's Kate."
There's something that's so like creepy about Alex too, especially when he gets into his like cringe mode. Just like, who's this gremlin?
I was team Alex like the entire way through, but in that moment I was like, oh man, I really feel for Dan now. Like I was like waiting for this to happen, but now that it's happening, I want out, and it's like I don't want to be in this room with them. But like, I mean, you said something before when you were talking about the show earlier to me, and you said that the part of the show where they get revealed like never gets old. It literally does not. Every single time where one of the blocked players gets to meet somebody that's still in the game, it's like what I look forward to the most out of every part of the episode. It's so cool to see how people react.
Yeah,
it's everything.
Poor Dan had already been catfished by an older woman pretending to be a younger
Right?
woman. And I think if Alex had been just like a less attractive woman or an older woman or something like that, that would have been a lot easier for Dan to stomach. But the fact that it was just some
some bloke, some lanky bloke,
some geezer. So yeah, that was great. And then of course we haven't talked about Freddie yet. I loved Freddie.
You know what? Like I was in the beginning, I was like, oh my god, he's going to annoy the fuck out of me because he's just so loud. But
he did annoy the fuck out of me. I hated him for like half the season.
I bought into it. I was just like, he was like one of the only people that made me laugh out loud like every single episode when they're playing one of those games, like, you know, trying to figure out what part of the opinion do you fall on? And obviously Alex's answer is like very like middle of the road, and he's like, you know what? Stop playing the fence, you dry bitch. Get personality. I just died. Like Freddie was just running around the apartment naked, like all of his antics with trying to flirt with girls and it not really working, and just like being so freaking crass, but people just loved him for it. He was great to watch. One thing that I don't understand about Freddie, though, because look, if you knew that you were going into the circle and you knew that you were going to be straight, why in the hell did you only have one straight presenting photo? He had one photo and he looked very handsome. I was like, I would think that the guy was straight, but then every other photo was like them. Like I'm like, oh my god, like is this really?
Yeah, and one of them was like one of his like straight photos was him playing football, which he knew nothing about.
Exactly. Nothing.
But he was just such a fantastic villain. Like, and I watched this. I was like, there's no way, it has to be. Obviously, Freddy gets the audience vote here, right? Like, how does the audience not love Freddy so much? And then I finally like get into like the social media from the circle, and he's a very controversial figure. People are actually mad at him for being tactical, which is very strange for me coming from Big Brother, where everyone's like, "No, cut them." But this is a very different audience in the UK, at least.
Yeah, it's very strange. That's why I'm going to be very interested to see, you know, just how different the American version will be, because I think a large part of what makes this show so special for me, aside from the concept, obviously, was just how endearing a lot of them are. Even Freddy, like there are so many humanizing moments, and very sincere humanizing, and not too heavy-handed moments where we get to see these characters sort of, you know, bare their souls to one another and make real connections with one another. And at the end of the day, even if they do argue with one another, and these arguments get really, really heated, they always find a way to sort of, you know, leave it, and, you know, whatever that phrase is, that they draw a line under it and move on. Like, they all tend to want to do that. And so that the atmosphere of the show, as drama filled as it can be, it's always just iced over with such a very just sense of good, you know, companionship and camaraderie. And I just think that that's something very special for this show. So
yeah. So that was season 1 was so fun and good. I really enjoyed it. And you know, we talked about the narrator, the commentator, whatever it is, the person doing voiceover, very funny. Well written jokes, great timing. Normally I hate that sort of thing, but this is done really well. They had like hosts that were not as funny.
Oh my god, they are probably so pissed.
Yeah, and basically they were on like the first couple of episodes and then never came back again until like the very, very end, I believe.
And I must say, like, I love Emma Willis, and I'm glad that she's taken over. I honestly feel like, as bad as I feel for those two hosts, they didn't really do too good of a job. I feel like they weren't very good at moderating discussions, especially during the finale. The finale was a bit messy, but, you know, I don't work in TV, so that's neither here nor there. But
yes, Cosmo says hi. Thank you, Cosmo, for the 3rd month of subscription. And yeah, so but we don't need the hosts. Like the voiceover person, more than enough. And like, even just like the games that they play, like there was never, I never felt like there was a dull moment in season 1. I always was interested and just like ready for the next thing. And, you know, man, they did a lot of cliffhangers, which I'm okay with when I'm binging it, but it will probably annoy me more as I watch live.
Yeah.
But so we get to season 2, and we have a new host. It's Emma from BBUK, I believe. And yeah, she seems fine.
She grew on me more truth be told, I don't really watch BBUK, so I don't really have too much experience with Emma Willis's TV personality. But I feel like she, as the season went on, I sort of appreciated what she was bringing. So, but yeah. I could have done without it too. Like, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I see Peg subscribe for the 2nd month. Thank you so much. Yeah, basically we're introduced to like this. It's new house, new sort of like format, higher prize money. Okay, the show's doing well. They're upgrading. Didn't love all of their upgrades. So now every week we have a live show. The first one was a disaster. They brought on like these 2 celebrity commentators to give their opinions, and it was really bad. And even now, like every single live show, every time they get to the live show portion, like 80% of it, I'm just like, oh, can we just get back to the house? Like,
yeah. So Matt Lagori was we were talking about the show, and he was talking about like when he binges things, he ups the speed to like 1.5, and I'm like, why do you do that? Like, enjoy the show for what it is. And he's like, I just don't have the time for this kind of stuff sometimes. And I'm like, now I kind of understand. So every time we would get to the live portion, I would just up the speed so I could just get through it. Although I will say, one thing I do appreciate about the live show format is because we really didn't get a lot of reunion time last season. So it is nice to see the blocked players sort of like play out the rest of the season with us, and we get to see their opinions as it goes on. So that way, towards the end, we can focus more on the players that are, the finalists and things like that. So I will say I appreciate that part.
That's definitely the part that I like, the fact that we get, we got what, Aiden in season 1, her response to Kate, and we got Dan's response to Kate, and Sean and Freddie. But apart from that, not much. Everybody else got to see it in the privacy of their own home. We didn't get
to, they brought Sinead and her grandfather there. They just like kind of mentioned it. We didn't get to hear him talk or anything. I was kind of interested in that, and so I hope that we get more time with this finale to really get some of the catfishes in there, like the actual real people, to see like what was it like to see your face used throughout the entire season, especially if one of them wins.
So we saw Brooke in this last episode and her reaction to Sammy, and that was great. But I did have an issue. Like, I hope that this is something that they will continue to fix. But like, first of all, they did picture in picture, which is great because I want to see her face as she sees it. But they didn't have audio on her, and so she kept yelling and saying things. I was like, I want to hear her. And then also, like, the montage they showed her of Sammy was like 5% Sammy and 95% her saying, I believe Sammy is real. Like, she doesn't need to see that. She needs to see Sammy. She remembers all the time she said she thought Sammy was real. She wants to see more of Sammy and who this guy is. She saw like one clip of him, and it was with his shirt off, or with his shirt on. She should have seen him with his shirt off, because that's even more jarring. Like, she should have seen clips of him being like, I want Tom Hardy's penis rubbing on my face. Like that would have been funny. Why are we seeing like the 5th clip in a row of her saying, I think Sammy's real, instead of seeing stuff like that? Like, that's the sort of thing I want them to tighten it up. But overall, it was still great to see her reaction.
Yeah, she was great. It does seem like some of these, and not just with her little truncated clips, so all of them seem to sort of like be servicing two things at once, both the audience and the blocked person, and you sort of like, we just want, like you just said, we just want to see how she's going to react to all of these different types of people. But I do like that they seem to want to do a good job at making sure that they see every single catfish, that's in the game, as opposed to just putting it all there together in one hodgepodge clip. So, but she was great. I was so mad at Tim for cutting her, because, and not only just because I like Brooke, but also just because the Scholar Squad thing was just so cool to me, and I thought that they could like take it to the end. But it also just goes to show that, I also like that, because for the most part, it seems like the people that come into the game later tend to just go right back on out, but not always. So I do like that there was a newer player that could sort of like convince Tim to do something that wasn't necessarily, at least in my opinion, not in his best interest, and get an older player out, because that's the name of the game. So
all right, so I want to talk about each of the players on season 2 right now, and I figured the best way to do this is to each rank them based on our favorite to our least favorite.
Okay. Wait. I gotta get them all up. I'm so about that. Like all of them, like even including the blocked ones?
No, just the ones left.
Just the ones left?
For now, yeah.
All right.
The top spot for me is so like hotly contested, because I feel like so many different people have come in and out of the top spot. But I can say for me, I think just because I love that he is still pulling it off, for me, I think the top spot goes to Sammy. Like he kind of lost me in the middle portion of the season because he really got quiet. Like the catfish thing played its course. Like he got really one-dimensional. He stopped being in a lot of conversations. People started to be a little suspicious. He started dropping the ratings. But like lately, he's been so funny, and I loved, especially in the first part of the season, like how ruthless he was and how like how committed he was to the lie. And so I just, in terms of like what he's bringing for entertainment, I can't wait for each person to see who Sammy actually is. Every time he has a conversation where he's making lewd jokes, I'm really enjoying it. Every time somebody's like, "Oh, that would be terrible if somebody was lying about having a baby like that," I'm like, "Ah!" Like he's really bringing a lot of the entertainment for the show to me. So for me, I think Sammy's got to be number one.
Yeah, that's a very good pick. I think for me, it's got to be Georgina. She's very funny. She's quick-witted. She has no problem sort of, sharing parts of herself that, and it's also not in like a disingenuous way. It's like in a way where she's really just sort of like claiming the fact that she has Crohn's, and it is what it is. And it was just so heartwarming to see, what was the guy's name? The TV presenter that was in there?
Richard Madeley.
Richard Madeley. That whole exchange between the two of them.
I loved Woody's detective blurb. Actually, Richard Madeley.
Oh yeah.
Beth, actually very beautiful.
Yeah, that was funny. He was funny. He was funny. It was so funny trying to watch him actually be rude and mean, because I feel like over here in America we're just so much like grittier, and he was just having such a hard time with it. But whatever. I really like Georgina. I think that she's a really sweet girl. And I'm really pulling for her to make it to the end. And I feel like she's set herself up in a really good spot. And yeah, I'm excited to watch what she does next.
Yeah, I think there was probably one portion of the season where I would have said, probably around the time Richard Madeley went to see her, that I would have said she's probably my number one. But she's kind of like, I think other people have kind of surpassed her at this point. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of her lately, except for the Brooke stuff now. And I'm actually really interested to see her character now, because I felt like after the Richard Madeley stuff, and like she was rated pretty highly for a while, I felt like she kind of started to disappear, sort of like Sammy. And I also felt like she started to play more tactically, but wouldn't say that she was playing tactically. So like she was like her rankings on the day that Brooke was blocked was like Ella number 1, Brooke number 2, Tim was down at number like 6. Like she was really playing tactically, but she wasn't really admitting that she was doing that yet, which is sort of what I thought Sean was doing in season 1 as well. But now that Brooke is gone, she was like, well, Brooke told me to do this, so now I'm gonna. So I feel like she's kind of using Brooke as an excuse to like own up to what she's doing, which I'm really happy about, because I want to see her play tactically, and I want to see her owning playing tactically, so that I can get into her head, and it's more interesting when you're not lying about who you are and what you're doing. So I'm really curious. I'm really excited to see like a more cutthroat Georgina moving forward, and how that will go, because I do think she is a dark horse to win this thing, because she's not too much of a threat, but she's also somebody who would get like, I think, a good sort of sympathy ranking as well. Like if you're choosing between two people and you're not sure which is the best tactically, you might just go Georgina because of the sympathy card. So I like Georgina a lot. I'm really interested to see where she goes from here.
Yeah, I agree. I did catch on to that whole thing with Brooke. Like, oh, I'm just doing what I'm told now because Brooke told me to brown nose and to do all this, and it's like, well, I mean, sure, but you should be doing that anyway. So I'm hopeful though for her. I really feel like she is in a good enough spot where I feel like the catfishing that's going on right now is such a hot button issue for some of these players, namely Woody and Tim and Ella. And I feel like if she can sort of like just maintain her status right now, that if she can make it to the final, I think she has a fair shot at winning. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All right. Number 2 for me has got to be Woody. I love Woody. I think he's so great. I think I went in pretty skeptical of him. Like, he is. I don't really know the people that are his parents, Fatboy Slim and somebody. They're like, he's a musician or a DJ or something, and his mom is like, I don't know, an actress maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But like famous parents, and so like here's this sort of privileged kid who grew up going to festivals and, you know, wants to be seen as somebody other than, you know, oh, my parents are famous, and I was like, yeah, okay, but. We'll
talk about it.
Well, he's a really, I think, genuine kid, and like he's so kind-hearted, and like he's an 18-year-old. I think like he's flawed in the sense that he cares way too much about who's a catfish. He cares way too much about who likes grime music and who doesn't, and who goes to festivals and who doesn't. He's very much that sort of kid that's like, oh, you like a thing that I like, that means we're best friends. But that's sort of to be expected as an 18-year-old. But apart from that, he's just such a sweet kid, and he's like, you can tell like how in the way that he reacts to other people, like how much he cares about other people. I loved when he was talking to Ella about the catfish people, and he was like, you know what, love before suspicion. Like you know, even if we suspect them, we will treat them with kindness first, suspect second. And I really loved that. I thought that was a really astute sort of observation about, you know, how to handle people coming from an 18-year-old.
I agree. I mean, I echo everything you just said. He's also my second favorite. It was very, very close between him and Georgina. He's very angsty, very earnest. And I also like the fact that he is, you know, somebody even mentioned it in the show. He seems to be very emotionally aware for somebody his age. And I feel like he knows when to take it seriously, and I feel like he knows when to not take things so seriously, and I feel like he does a good job of sort of, you know, dealing with, you know, all of the dynamics of the game. And this whole, you know, writing down all of these, this Detective Denny thing is just so fun to watch. Like with this big board in his room with all of the connections and lies and question marks and here's and there's, and he's a good kid, and I'm also rooting for him, and I hope that he makes it further. And it was nice to see because typically you think in games like these you would expect the younger people to be a little bit more apt at this sort of thing. You expect them to automatically be at a certain level of popularity, but in the beginning it was a lot of Tim, and he was down towards the bottom towards like the first 3 weeks, and it was really eating him alive. But I like the fact that he really was proactive in trying to figure out exactly what is it that I am not getting across. And then he finds out, oh, I should really start talking more to people. I should really start, you know, being more of me. And it worked. And it wasn't even like in a very heavy-handed way. It's just he relaxed, and it's working. He's a good kid.
Yeah. Who's your number 3?
Number 3. See, you know, I was gonna say Tim, but he really pissed me off this one. You know what? I'll just give it to Tim, because there's so many. The ones that are left, the newer ones, like I've had less time with them, so I really can't. You know.
Yeah.
You know what? No. I do like Ella.
Well, you still haven't said Sammy. Just.
I forgot about Sammy. I literally forgot about Sammy.
I know, I said Sammy, and you haven't put it down yet.
I forgot. But I guess that means she's not really my favorite. But I think I'm going to go with Ella for my third, because she sort of just like busted onto the scene, right? And is, you know, very witty, very funny, and pretty smart. And like, the one thing that I love the most about this show is we get to see what they're actually thinking versus what they're typing, and it seems like she's always catching on to things, a lot like Tim does. Very intuitive, and I like to see that work through her. So she's just so sweet. I like the little bond that she's created with Woody, and she's a joy to watch. I like her.
Yeah, I like Ella. I actually liked her a little bit more when she was like being a little more sassy, like why is everyone being all lovey-dovey? Because I've seen like the UK audience was like, oh, she's terrible, all she wants is drama, and I'm like, I like that.
Put her in there. Put her in there.
Like, she's calling out the fact that everyone is brown nosing because that's the game. But now she's doing it herself, which fair game. That's the game, and she's doing it well. So hats off to her. But I do, I like more when I see the sort of sassier side to her than the like talking about Reading and grime. I really like the festival and the music genre talk, like, really is like, okay, can we move past this already?
Not your cup of tea, Taryn.
Yeah. Which is like, I'd totally be doing that. Like, that's how I immediately bonded with people when I got to college, was I had an encyclopedia of knowledge about like music and movies and shows, and so I could bond with everybody about no matter what their taste was, I knew what they were talking about, and I'd be able to talk about it with them, and that's how I bonded with them. So like, I completely get it. That's my thing, but it's boring to listen to.
Yeah,
it's only interesting for the people in that conversation.
Yeah, the only thing that I got interested in was when they started talking about Skepta, because apparently Adele is now dating Skepta, but that's as far as my knowledge goes about grime music.
There you go. For me, I would put Tim as number 3. He has sort of like the thing with Tim, and I was curious about this when the show started, when the season started, I was like, Tim is amazing, and then as things went on, I was like, Tim is amazing. But the problem with Tim, sort of similar to what a catfish is, like, it's just a little bit one-dimensional, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a lot of the same kind of Tim over and over. And like, the little bit of Tim we're getting outside of the character that we already know as Tim is ruthless Tim, which I actually am fine with. Like, that's cool. But I just want to see more... I want to see more outside of just like him being quirky and making funny noises and getting hashtags wrong. Like I want to see more from him, and I think that's probably difficult as somebody who is so much older than most of the other people in the game to really bond with them on the same level that they are. But still, my favorite Tim is the one that's like emotionally bonding with people and stuff like that, rather than. I think we've seen a lot of like ruthless Tim lately. I really liked the stuff with him and Sammy when he was like, I'm gonna give Sammy bestie because she's not gonna get any other besties, and then he was like, oh, nobody gave me bestie. That was a Tim I liked. Yeah,
Tim, he's really good. My favorite thing about him is just how intuitive he is and how he's directly on the nose with so many of the other players, and I feel like that's the thing that makes him interesting for me. And I agree with you. As far as like the way that he communicates with everybody else, I mean, everybody's aware that he's the oldest guy in the house. He knows that they know it, and so I feel like it's already expected of him to sort of be the odd one out. But now, now that he is the odd one out, he's like their odd man out, and so like the way that he communicates with them is very like, oh, I'm the old guy, right? So like, if I get this wrong, it's because of that. So when it's repeated over and over again, that's why some people are like, is Tim real? Because it seems like he's really playing a role, and I think Tim is playing a role. The role is himself, So it's tricky. It's a bit dodgy, but I just think that he's just been so consistently popular. I don't see a finale without him.
Yeah,
I think he deserves it, to be honest. Like, he's just played a hell of a game.
With this new twist, the super influencer, I could see Tim being the victim of that, especially if it goes to Georgina.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So that could be interesting, but still, like, there's so much great content we've gotten from Tim all season long. I hope he makes it to the finale. He's been such a great character. I'm really intrigued by him. I know that he took a dive when he talked about Thatcher, being a Thatcher supporter.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I'm not super up on UK politics, but
and he benefited from that because neither were the younger people. They were just sort of just like, they were like, I've heard some bad things about her, but I also don't really know, so I'm not going to say anything.
I'm pretty sure Thatcher is not super popular with the sort of liberal side of things, is my take.
No.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting to.
So that's interesting, but yeah, still, regardless, I think Tim is a great personality in there, and I really enjoy him. I would then probably go Georgina as my number 4. Mm-hmm. Who do you have as number 4?
Tim would be mine.
Okay, and then
Ella third.
And then I would go Ella 5.
5. Who do we have left? There's
Sammy, Patty, Judy, Josh.
I'll give it to Sammy. I mean, I do really appreciate what he's doing. I mean, he's the most similar to what we had with Alex last year. And I think a big reason as to why he's so low on my list is because of the fact that I did watch 2 seasons back to back.
Choice, not Judy. Judy was Richard Madeley.
Oh, yeah. I think a big reason why he's a little bit lower down on my list is because of the fact that I do tend to compare him with a little bit with Alex because it's a similar catfishing situation. And I just watched Alex play in season 1, and so I'm sort of at a battle with it. But he's done some very amazing work, and I must say I agree. All of the flirting, he's getting so much better at fleshing out Sammy. To the point where he was, talking. They were all he was in that group chat with the rest of the girls talking about Andrea and making all these lewd sexual jokes, and it was really, really, it was fun to watch. And I like that I keep mixing up pronouns.
Get the pronouns right, Amon.
Yes, I apologize. I like the fact that Sammy is sort of, also had that fall from grace and has had to climb back up. And I loved when he met Sammy and Jay, more like Jay's mom, met, and they just looked at each other and just started laughing. That was my favorite part of the season by far.
It was really good.
So I just he's playing a very good game, and I do agree with Emma Willis when she made the point that because of the fact that he knows what it's like to live with a single mom, being that his mother was a single mom, and she raised him, it does sort of help you get acclimated to the idea of him doing this. So I feel like, yeah, it's going to be a big shock to people when they see him, but at the same time, when they hear his story, they're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it, so... I mean, they're Brits. They love everybody over there. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
And I love the contrast of this big, muscly, bearded guy playing Sammy. And I just can't wait for everybody to see who he actually is. And also, he is the only, as far as I can, if I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure he is the only person to successfully catfish for anywhere near this length of time. Pretty much every other catfish was outright caught by at least one person, usually a few people, and also blocked. Alex is the only catfish to have made it any length of time, and Alex was basically caught by the entire player base, apart from Dan, and even Dan pretty much caught him. But Sammy has managed to get through just over 2 weeks now. A couple of people have suspected him, but no more than they've suspected real people. Woody suspected Tim at one point, and lots of people suspect Tim. There are a lot of people that are, no, Sammy's real. Woody has been a little bit, but even the 2 people Woody expressed that to, Ella and Tim, were both nah, Sammy's real. And so Olaf was the only stumble. But I felt here's the thing. I feel like that wasn't even very fair because, first of all, what 1-year-old is watching Frozen? That's what I was
saying. They kept saying that. I'm like, they're not. No, they're not watching.
You're
Frozen.
it's a baby.
Yes.
This baby doesn't know what's on the screen. Like, maybe you'd show them something, but even then, like, whatever. And also, he did know what Frozen was. He wrote, like, can we let it go? But I think that was too subtle for people who hadn't watched Frozen. And so we're like, well, I assume they would have known who this was. Mm-hmm. For the record, also, I watched Frozen for the first time on my way to LA a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And still could not remember the name of the snowman. I just watched this thing and I was like, oh, what was the snowman's name? You know, granted, I am a 27-year-old straight guy, so you know, I don't know, like maybe that just fits with James, but still.
Yeah, it was that was the only minus of it that she ever had, and it was it was a reach at best. I was there with him on that couch. I was like, oh, come on, like, you know, like, I mean, I'm a Disney freak. I'm a Disney gay. Okay, so I knew. Normally I'd be screaming at the TV, but I was just like, you know, I mean, it's a 1-year-old. Like, I'm not, you know, I thought it was funny as hell though when Ella was like, really though, I feel like every parent is just given a copy of Frozen. I was like, yeah, she's a hoot, but yeah. I like Sammy. I like James. He's doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then I went Georgina, Ella as 5. Number 6 would be Patty for me, and I don't dislike Patty. He's a little new.
Yeah, it's just not enough time.
Yeah.
I think that I would probably go for. This is kind of hard because there's 2 of them. Are we counting them as one player?
Yeah, we'll just call him Joyce.
Okay, yeah. So I think I like Jack a lot more than I like Beth,
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like you know I've had a little bit more time with Jack, but also no, they came in at the same time, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. I feel like I've had more time with Jack, but he just he's sort of like. I just feel like he's better at
oh my god
game.
his face when they showed the real the supermodel to Jack and Beth, his face, oh, she's so fit.
You know, I'm kind of like annoyed with the 2 of them and like the show a little bit because I feel like this was just too perfect. You got a 29-year-old really fit girl, a 29-year-old really fit guy. They come at it at the same time. They get booted at the same time, but then they get saved at the same time. And then you put them into the same apartment. It's like you're obviously trying to go for like, oh, maybe they're going to get together. Maybe they're going to fall in love in the House of the Circle and bringing Joyce together and bringing her alive. And it was just like, and they're really not that good at it. I mean, I feel like Jack is a little bit better than Beth is, but I at this point, I'm just kind of just waiting for them to get eliminated. And it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know. I just.
Their best moment by far was Jack noticing the fingernail marks on the cake.
Yeah, that was impressive.
That was so good. I did not see that, but he totally caught it. That was great. But apart from that, they've been terrible at the lying. Like with the Reading Festival,
and they're 29. Like you're still in your 20s. How do you not know? And didn't this guy just say he did that was what his job was? He like did like events and stuff like that. I'm like, how do you not know musical acts?
And you should have just made up something. Like make something up that's like it was like a local, small festival called blah blah blah, and I saw blah blah blah.
She's old. Like, you could have played that off so cool. You could be like, oh, it was this one band with, like, 3 blokes, and I couldn't remember the name of them, but I really enjoyed them that day. Like, they just did not. It was not the tea.
Yeah. Hey, darling. Hey, sweetheart. And then the thing that annoyed me about Jack was when he, Beth went for the like, oh, I can't remember who we saw. And then they were like, oh, that was suspicious. And then Jack was like, oh, we should have gone with my idea. Like, he was such a little baby about it. And, like, his idea was naming somebody that's been dead for 30 years. Like...
Yeah, but, like, what the hell was that? And then he's, like, kind of, like, throwing, like, a little bit of a hissy fit with her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want you to think that, like, I'm trying to control it. He's like, well, like, that's how you're making me feel. And I was like... I was like, I'm not like, you guys need to, like, come on, calm down. Like, it's just Joyce. Like, it's just an old lady. Like, come on. Like, it really shouldn't be that hard. And the fact that they're like, like when they're getting caught in lies, they're just like, just skipping over questions. Like, you're making yourself so obvious. Like, there's no finesse at all. Like, two heads are not better than one when it comes to catfishing at all.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not super fond of Joyce. I put Patty ahead of Joyce, but you put Joyce ahead of Patty.
I did, only because there's some entertainment factor with the two of them just like utterly failing. And I mean, I like Patty as well. I think he's they could be interchangeable for me. Patty is obviously the whole thing with him. What's the condition that he has?
Cerebral palsy. Yeah,
cerebral palsy.
That moment was the thing that makes him above Joyce for me in terms of like that was a great moment. And you know, he is the problem. Like his humor is very one dimensional. It's pretty much exclusively just about like banging dudes, which is like funny the first couple times, but then it's like, can we get some new jokes maybe?
Yeah.
But I still find him funny and I like him. It's just I don't think we've had enough time with him, and I think he's been just a little too one dimensional apart from you know the cerebral palsy and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, they did get some tears out of me during that segment though. I was like, oh dang, y'all got me. Y'all really got me. It was really nice to watch.
Yeah. And then that leaves us with Josh, the newest entry. And I was actually super excited for Josh because she seemed like she was really on top of the detail. Like when she was describing who Josh was and the kinds of things that he would say and respond to, I was like, oh wow, she's really got this. She's got a plan. She's ready. And then the second Josh started talking, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's yeah. And you always have an idea of the character that you want to play in your head, but it's one thing to actually like you have to talk like them, and it's just not. I feel like Basayo just doesn't. I mean, she has an idea, but it's not being executed very well, and she's already people are already suspicious of it, and she really did seem like she was on top of it, and it's just not there.
I would buy a jukebox and then, you know, try to help save kids with the money.
I feel like you're doing too much. Like you're making him too sick. Like you want him to be successful, but then you also said that you didn't want him to be too successful. That he's like sort of like kind of unattainable. But like now it's just you're doing too much. I just feel like you just need to be a guy and just like let it be. Like.
Yeah, she like I think there's none of her that's kind of, like that's like she is still in the phase of I'm completely pretending to be a completely different person. None of her personality is coming through, and that's really bad because people can sense when you're not being genuine. You know, in order for the catfish to work, it has to be you with a wrapper on, not you know, just like a fully created product. I just don't think that works.
Right. It's I was saying earlier this week on Twitter, I was like, if I ever went into Big Brother as a Big Brother, if I ever went into the circle as a catfish, I feel like I would have to be my twin sister because of the fact that we share so many stories and so many of our experiences are shared that I could literally tell it from my point of view, but it's just through the lens of a female.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to, like, when you do catfishing, you need to do something like that because then it's, you know, you wrap yourself in the truth.
Yeah. But
you're doing that when it's completely and totally opposite. And it can be done if you do your research, but you also just have to. I also feel like if Basayo had, like, if she knows a Josh, if her best friend is a Josh, then I could see it actually working. But I feel like she's just like taking notes of what she thinks a Josh is.
Yeah, like she's seen him on Instagram and like, oh, I want to be that guy.
Right. And she's just like regurgitating boiled down facts, and it's just not. It's not the tea, sis. Not the tea.
Yeah. Then this latest episode, we were introduced to, I can't even remember the name of the supermodel. Jan and the supermodel.
Andrea.
Do you know, Aman,
Yes.
what is the difference between a regular model and a supermodel?
I think supermodels are the ones that appear on the front covers of magazines as well as like walk in like New York Fashion Week and Paris and stuff like that. Whereas opposed to like regular models, you can just be a print model where you're in catalogs, or you're just you're signed with just one agency like with Wilhelmina, and you do like photo shoots for Gap. And I feel like a supermodel is somebody like a Naomi Campbell where you're like worldwide known, like you walk and you shoot and you do commercials.
It's just a very interesting description. I can't think of any other job where your job title just gets updated to like super podcaster or like super actor. Like
Well, I feel like Andre has been pretty. I mean, I've never really heard of him or seen him, but I'm also not really looking into fashion and stuff like that. But I feel like he's pretty worldly because they say he's Italian, but I kind of like. I feel like I get the sense that he's been in America a lot too because he sort of
he flirted with Madonna, and if she was a little bit younger, then things might have happened.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. But like his accent is sort of like diluted a bit. Like I feel like I hear like a little bit of American in his accent, so. He must travel, so he must be doing something super.
Yeah, this guy, I did not get a great impression from this guy in the short time that we knew him. Between the Madonna comment and then also like who would you have dinner with? Oh, Taylor Swift. I've done work with her. Okay, like quit it with the humble
Name
brags, dude.
Yeah, and it's like Taylor Swift of all people. Like, it's all right. Okay, girl. Okay. Now I kind of want to know what he did with her. Like, what the hell did you do with her? Must have been a music video.
But then we also got Jan, and Jan seems fine, but again, like, this is what just doesn't work for me as well. Just like these really late additions, they just seem like fodder to me.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to want to root for them because they're coming into it late, especially when it's the last one before they close it off. It's just like, how are we supposed to root? Like, for how are any of these people actually supposed to want to bring along somebody that was not there with them the whole time?
And I'd actually be pretty annoyed if somebody like Jan won because I don't know her. Like if one of the originals lost, like. Let's go back to season 1, right? I can't even remember the name of the guy that was introduced last in season 1. Harry. And then he was the last person booted before the Final Four. Let's say there was some weird twist that kept him into the Final Four, or for whatever reason there was a feud happening and they blocked somebody else before the Final Four. Harry goes in as the probably least popular person, and then by stroke of luck, because he's the least popular person, sort of like Alex, ends up winning. That would have been a terrible end to that season. And I really hope, like, I think that that's a very real, outcome that could happen. And I don't want to see that. That's like Extinction Island on steroids. Like somebody coming in the last episode and winning the game, basically. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. Although, one thing, and obviously it's a newer show, so maybe, I'm just not really, because I was invested in a winner, but I also, I enjoyed the progression of the series so much more than I did the finale. So a piece of me wonders, like, it probably wouldn't be the best if somebody that was newer won, but at the same time, I feel like, you know what? No, screw that. That would suck. That would suck if a newer person won.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is something to be said in like just the story that is told and the connections that are made and all of the things that lead up to the finale are like just it's a good show. So like I'm there for the ride all the way up until the end. So even if the ending isn't the best, the show is so fucking good. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah. I feel like this season, if they had just not introduced Jan, then like we had known Joyce for a long time now because Jack and Beth, we knew them beforehand. So like I would have been fine with basically all. Really, Josh was probably the last person introduced. Then I would have been kind of disappointed with Josh winning from that point. But at least then we would have had like a good 6-7 episodes to get to know Josh by that point, and maybe we would have felt better about it at that point. But still, I just don't love this. Like, it's all right at first in the beginning of the game when people are starting to be added, but in general, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like I wouldn't mind just having everybody in at once. I don't know if I would hate that too much, but who knows?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, like, what's the solution to this? Do you just cut it off and then?
I guess the problem is, like, the catfishing is so much fun, and if everybody's in at once, then all of the catfish get caught immediately. Then you have no more catfish for the rest of the season. Like, that would suck. So, I guess I do see the benefits to it, and I do see why they do it. But you know what? It didn't harm the first season. The originals made it to the end, and that was cool. So we'll see.
Yeah, you just gotta, if you're going out for this show, you just gotta hope to be original cast, because that's the strongest way to get to the end.
Yeah, not to mention, let's not even talk about the people getting cursed and on the show.
Yeah, damn, I forgot about them. I thought, I was like, did they just go back into rotation and we'll see them later on? No, those wizards were gone. Like,
yeah,
that'd be so sad.
Yep. And these people, like, they have to be sequestered for the entirety of the game.
And I'm also wondering, are the people that, because not all the people obviously live where this is filmed, so I guess Amel and Sai and Jay's mom and now Brooke are just going to stay there. I mean, I guess it's only 3 weeks.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I guess if you planned on winning the show anyway, you'd be there. But still, like, did they just, like, stay in a hotel and just, like...
They probably just, like... I imagine they have a bunch of rooms for the sequestering.
They're probably still in the circle
that are coming. Like, people are coming in and out of them all the time, so they probably just have Jay and Amel and Sai just, like, roomed up.
Yeah. One thing I do love about the show, and it did a little bit more. I noticed it a lot more in the second season than the first season. But the rooms match the personalities of the players so well. Now, obviously, when the
Jan got Brooke's room. What was up with that, though?
Yeah. Obviously, when you get some of the replacements, it's kind of off.
That was too soon.
Yeah, that was messed up.
I liked Brooke. We didn't talk about Brooke, but I liked Brooke.
I liked her too. I just followed her on Twitter. She's pretty active. She was active today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The rooms are they're very nice. I feel like they really help me, like, get a sense of who these people are. So whoever is on production and set design, kudos to y'all.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about this, especially in comparison to a show like Big Brother, which I do know a lot about. But from what I hear, they're very good about like having a psychologist, like, on call during the season when they need to talk to them.
One in the credits at every episode. Yep.
Afterward as well, they keep in touch with them and they make sure they're doing okay. Like, they are to be commended for that. It's something that I think that Big Brother should be doing much more often and doing much better. So according to what I've heard, it seems like they do really well with that, and that really pleases me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably why a lot of them are, seemingly in good spirits. I know that there are some days where it's probably just like, oh my God, I want to get out of here. But they just seem to be able to. It seems like it's a very supportive environment, and that they all know that they're still there to play a game, and it just seems like it's very healthy and transparent and just, like, good and wholesome. So good on you, mate, for that.
Yes. All right. So what are our predictions here moving forward? So at the end of the episode, Jan goes in, Supermodel's out, Brooke is out, and now there's a new vote, and it's a public vote, which don't like this. Let's avoid doing too much of this.
They're getting it's like each and every week there's, like, a fan participation, and it gets, like, heavier and heavier and heavier, and I'm like, damn, y'all are really
It feels like they're
Testing.
flirting with disaster.
Yes,
They
like
have
you're-
such a great format, but so far it's been all right. I just feel like they're really just like testing their limits, and it concerns me about their future. So far it's been fine, and it feels like they can't mess up the formula too much because like the game is built on being popular in the circle, and so if you mess with that, if you give too much audience participation, it messes with the entire purpose of being a
Right.
catfish and all of that. So it feels like there is a line that they won't be able to cross, but this is basically touching that line, which is the public is going to vote for who the influencer is. And so here's what I don't like about it. If that person knows that the public voted for them, don't love that. But
Right.
we knew, like, Freddie got a public vote. It wasn't as powerful and it wasn't as telling, but it was still something. But I still don't love it. But I feel like, yeah, it's not going to totally screw things up, I don't think. It's such a short game. It's
That's
such
toward
a
the end, yeah.
non-game, so it's probably fine. In terms of who I think is going to get it, I'm seeing Tim. I'm seeing Georgina. I think Woody is up there, and I think Sammy is up there. And so far, every time there's been an audience choice, what the people on the live show say they want to happen is what happens. So Jan made it in, Ella made it in, Jack and Beth made it in, and they seemed to be very pro Sammy. Sai in particular made a good point about why Sammy would be fun, because after this super influencer anonymously blocks one player, they got to go deliver the news face to face, which could you imagine Sammy showing up at your door? Hey, who are you? Yeah, so I'm Sammy,
So
and
now only
I just kicked you out. Sorry about that.
Not only do you get kicked out, you also have to meet James. You never get to meet Charlie. Like, there is no Charlie. Like, it'd be one thing if Sammy comes up there with a bundle of joy to, like, you know, tide you over. But nah, it's just like this ripped, jacked dude coming up into your apartment telling you that your game is over. Like, oh. But I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping that happens. Also, like I said, I'm a fan of Sammy, so the fact that Sammy would be safe for that, I think, is nice. I feel like Sammy would probably just get rid of Josh,
Yeah. I think
or
so,
somebody
too.
easy. A lot of people like think about Sammy as a really tactical player, but I do think that he's actually kind of not. Like, he's very tactical about how he portrays himself, but he's very, like, in a lot of ways, he's very, like, genuine with his rankings so far that I've seen. Like, he's going to protect the people that protect him. It reminds me a lot of Alex in how he ranks. That he's protecting his people because he knows they'll protect him, but also he's being pretty genuine about it. He's not, like, really tanking people that he doesn't want to be in there. And so I think that Sammy should block Woody if he's being really tactical, because Woody is super popular. Woody is the only person that even comes close to suspecting him. Woody's probably the most influential person that Sammy does not have on board. And also, Sammy's two closest people, Tim and Ella, the one person they're both closer to than Sammy is Woody. So with Woody out of the picture, they both kind of individually come back to Sammy. So there's a lot of benefits to anonymously getting Woody out. But I don't know if he's thinking in those terms. And then also, you don't want to peak too early. You know, we're getting close to the end. But if Sammy all of a sudden becomes most popular person for the next 3-4 things, then that makes it a lot more difficult for you to win in the final four if people are ranking tactically, because they're so worried that you're going to win that they're probably going to put you last just in case. So Who knows? But I'm pretty sure the voting. So here's why I think the live show people are so influential. The voting is only open for like a really short period of time, like 15 minutes, like
Right.
as the show is airing. You do not have a lot of time to think about it. So the last thing you heard was a great reason why Sammy would be fun to watch. You might just vote Sammy. And there's no time to think about like, oh, well, wait a minute. If I vote Sammy, then my favorite might get voted off. Like, it's a really quick voting period. So who knows?
Yeah, and I do think that it'll end up being a more like he probably will not go for the more dramatic choice. I mean, not only because I think just a lot of it has to probably do with the fact that he just doesn't want to have to actually reveal himself, especially to the people that he feels like that he's actually creating some bonds with, especially that he feels like Sammy is creating bonds with. Like I feel like he wouldn't want to block Tim. Obviously, he wouldn't want to have to go and show himself to the other girls, and it would just sort of like be just and then have to, even with the knowledge of knowing that it's anonymous, and even knowing that they cannot like hurt his game because they'll be out the door. I just feel like that's just not something that James wants to do at this point in time. But I mean, we'll see. I feel like the easier choice is definitely Joyce. Or Jan or Josh.
Yeah, I mean, really, it should be Woody or Joyce. Those are the two people who I think are the most anti-Sammy of the group. But does he even know that? That's the question, because I don't know how limited their interaction is, but it seems like it's actually fairly limited. Because there's usually like so often it's like, oh, it's the next morning, and it's like, oh, time to finally thank this person for not kicking me out. Like normally, like on Big Brother, we see this like immediately. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Or like, oh, I'm so sorry about this. Like these things happen immediately, but
that was funny.
These conversations are taking place day after, usually publicly, because like maybe this is their first opportunity, maybe it's their only opportunity. That's my like. I'm hoping to talk to at least one former player from the show. And
yes.
my like burning question, if they're able to answer, is how often are you allowed to talk? How many private conversations are you able to have? So on and so forth, because that is such a huge component that we are missing in terms of the strategy of the game.
I do feel like you're on the right track, though. I feel like it's a very regulated thing where it's because the circle, even in the morning, sometimes the circle chat doesn't seem to be open. It's like they always like announce it, like, oh, the circle chat's open now, so we can actually talk to everybody at once. So I feel like they seem to all have like a set a bedtime as well, and I just feel like there are like certain points throughout the day where they don't have to worry about, because I mean, the editors do a fantastic job as it is, but I can only mention that the job is very hard, and it will be increasingly harder if they could just be talking at all points in time in the day, separate conversations, DMs, and group chats, and it would just be too much. So, yeah. I feel like it's definitely regulated.
Yep. So I'm very curious to see how, the way that the Final Four ratings went down in season 1 was really interesting. I'm definitely curious to see how these rankings go in the Final Four. If I'm thinking about the most likely Final Four, I think the most likely people to hit the Final Four are Sammy, Georgina, Ella, and probably either Tim or Woody, I think. Depending on how the super influencer goes, depending on what other twists are going to happen, I feel like Tim is in danger because of the Brooke thing and the fact that he's been in the top spot for so long. There might be, an inclination to let him go. And then Woody is in, I think, a little bit of danger because he's so caught up on the catfishing stuff. And then he's not in the greatest place with Georgina. So I could see Georgina, if she got super influencer, getting rid of either Tim or Woody, potentially. And then even probably Tim at this point. I don't know. Or even Ella. I don't know. I think Ella might have trouble too. I think one of those, it's probably either Tim, Woody, or Ella are the person that loses their spot in the Final Four. Otherwise, if it goes along the lines of how it did previously, then we're probably seeing a Final Four of originals plus Ella or something along those lines. Anyway, if that's the case, then we're looking at like a ranking where, you know, if Woody is in there, then I feel like Woody, you know, then you have to think about like who's the kind of person that's going to rank genuinely and who's going to rank tactically. I feel like Woody would rank genuinely. He would put like Ella number 1, Tim number 2, Sammy number 3, whatever it is. Whereas I think Georgina ranks 100% tactically. I think Georgina goes like Tim is last, Ella's second, Sammy's first, because she thinks Sammy is probably her least threatening person. And then, you know, Ella, I think maybe a little bit of a combination. I think she probably goes like Woody number 1 if Woody's there. And then I think she's probably fairly genuine, actually. I think she'd probably go like a Woody, Sammy, Georgina, if that's, you know, who's in there. So it's really like the end game strategy is so difficult because you have to be able to read how people are going to vote either genuinely or tactically. Then once you figure that out, you have to know who are they genuinely better friends with. And so if they are voting genuinely, what's the order of that? Or if they are voting tactically, how do they feel is the most tactical way to vote? And that's so difficult when you have a limited amount of exposure to them.
Right.
And so,
there are so many times when we find like that we watch them finding out, and it's sort of like, even as a viewer, it's sort of hard to keep track of the separate relationships, and not only that, but who knows what about certain relationships. So there'll be many times throughout the season where if somebody gets visited, or if somebody mentions something to another person about somebody else, and that person will be like, "Oh, I didn't realize that those two were that close." Like, that happens so many times because it's literally impossible to be omniscient in this game. Like, it's hard to create those maps for yourself. So it's very tricky. It's a lot of probability and a lot of just like, it's a lot of unknowables that you have to know about not knowing.
Yeah, like, I mean, we saw it happen with Sammy where he was like, "Oh, Ella's gonna pick me for bestie," and then it was like, "Oh, Ella picked Woody for bestie," because he wasn't aware of all of the private conversations happening between Ella and Woody in the time that he had talked to Ella, where they had been bonding about grime and festivals. So it's interesting. Marge, thank you for the 3rd month of subscription. Tammy, thank you for subscribing. Welcome to the Robot Army. And Maximus, thank you for the 100 bits. So yeah, it's super interesting. You know, in season 1, it was very simple. The right answer is 1 star everybody. Like, don't even 2-star your friends. Don't even 2-star somebody you don't think is going to win. I still am very curious about Freddie's 2-star for Alex. But this season with the rankings, it is so much more difficult because you have to rank somebody number 1, you have to rank somebody number 3, and you have to rank somebody number 2. And so you have to be, if you want to rank tactically, you have to be able to anticipate who's in first place without my vote, who's in second place without my vote, and who's in third place without my vote, and then rank accordingly. And that's tough. And even if you think like this person's in third place, this person's in second, this person's in first, you have to also know like what kind of difference there is. Like, can you
think they're allowed to talk about this?
That's the thing. The only way to really like game this is to be able to plan ahead of time and essentially promise. And that's another question I would want to ask is like, are you allowed to, in a plea to somebody, essentially say, "Look, I'm willing to rank you number 1 for the rest of the game, including the final round, if you keep me around. You don't even have to do the same to me, but I'm going to promise you." Can you make deals like that tactically? So I would guess that's frowned upon, considering how nobody's really done it. You'd think at least one person would have done it, especially like somebody coming into, like, if I'm coming into the circle late, that's my, like, really I am trying to identify who are the most popular people, and then who is the most popular person that I am able to connect with to some degree, and then I'm going to offer them a deal. I'm going to tell them that I'm going to rank them high, and I'm going to make them win the game, and that's an incentive to keep me around. And then I'm going to backstab them because this is a prisoner's dilemma where it only happens once. So
right. Yeah, that's really tough. I don't really know. I mean, I feel like it must be, because I feel like it must be frowned upon. That is because it just seems like such an obvious tactic to make, especially considering. I mean, well, now the ranking is it's ranking and not rating as last year. I just feel like that's such an obvious thing to go for. It's like to promise somebody that you will have them high up on your ranking if you keep them around, and vice versa, and because otherwise, like, we just focus on the please and that's it. Like, I just feel like that's not enough. I feel like there's just not enough tactical talk amongst them at this point in the game, and I feel like there should be. And I feel like I would be interested to see like what that actually does, like how that actually changes how people vote, And do you believe this person when they tell that to you? You know what I mean? Like, are you sure that someone's gonna give you that number one spot, or do you anticipate them lying about it, and then that means that you vote them low, but they actually end up voting you high? Like, I just feel like it would make it even more messy, which I think is that's just even more entertaining. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's rough. Oh my god, this is really, really rough.
It's actually like if they ever do get into the strategy of this game, it's very complicated.
I feel like this is kind of. I mean, I haven't really had a lot of time to sit with it, but even just talking to you now about it, I just feel like this is sort of like. It's almost like impossible to predict. I mean,
that's one of the reasons I think why they don't talk about it too much, is because it's so complicated that it's difficult to game.
Right. Because you're not. I mean, you really don't. You really don't add too much to it by making deals and promises and empty deals and promises. Like because you're already at a point now, at the end of the game, where you've already exhausted all the social capital that you've had throughout there. I mean, you're at the Final Four now. All you have to do is rely on the people and hope that your friendship rings true, and that they're going to rate you highly. And all you can do is think about whether or not they will do it, and how you're going to respond, and how you're going to do your own rankings. And
basically, like, if there was a Dan Giesling on the show and he made it to the Final Four, then he would be having a private chat with Tim where he was like, all right, we're, Scholar Renegades. We're going to rank each other number one, because screw it. We'd never snake each other, right? We're going to rank each other number one, and then hopefully the other two snake each other. And then basically they'll just decide which of us is going to win. But it'll be one of us, because we're going to rank each other number one, and that's how it's going to go. And, one of us will be the winner, and that's going to be great. And then he goes to his private message to Ella, and he says, all right, Ella, it's the Festival Renegades. We're going to rank each other number one. And then the other two will decide, but one of us is going to win this game. And then he goes to Woody and he says, all right, Woody. And then that's how Dan Giesling wins this game. But I would imagine that's pretty difficult.
And then that strategy is never, ever used again. It's now broken, and everybody tries to imitate it, much to no avail throughout seasons to come. Like, yeah, this is a lot more complicated than I gave it credit for, especially last season. I sort of just was just so wrapped up in the awesomeness of the show that I didn't really think too much about the strategy. But it's definitely it's tough, because no matter what, everything is done anonymously, so it's so much easier to do these rankings without anybody else's influence, because it's all up to you. Like, whereas in games like Big Brother, you're in people's faces, and you can talk to them about these kinds of things, and you see them and you hear them, and all the things that come with being able to interact with somebody and speak with them face to face. And that's all out of this game. So everybody is reduced to a picture on a screen, and it makes it that much easier for you to be self-interested. And it's very interesting.
Curious stuff.
Very interesting. When is the finale again? On Friday?
I believe it's Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
So
we get 2 more episodes. We get Sunday and Friday.
Well, no, I think we'll get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, so
Friday.
Well, duh, Mon, you idiot! They have to eliminate all these people. Duh.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a full week, I believe, left. So it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 5 episodes left. So I think 21 episodes total.
I'm
Or
just so used to,
17,
like,
18, 19,
Big
20,
Brother
21, yeah.
and, like, it being separated. You know, I'm not used to like daily shows like this.
Yeah.
Not that I'm complaining. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I just wish the upload, whoever's uploading them on YouTube, did it at a regular time. That would make it much easier.
Oh, I didn't realize they didn't do that because I just binged, so everything's been at the same time for me.
Oh yeah, see,
Now I'm gonna be pissed.
every night I'm like reloading the page, like when is this coming?
Fuck, I'm gonna be so mad now.
If you go to the official website, it'll like you can either watch it live or like watch it immediately after the fact, essentially. But lots of ads. So
yeah. I watched it on the website for season or episode 2, and it was lots of British accented ads everywhere.
So that's what we have. Do you have a winner prediction?
A winner prediction. It's really hard, especially with this whole thing for the anonymous influencer. But I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I don't know if Tim can make it. I think he's in some really rough waters right now. But I do think that the people that are a little bit more middle of the road have a better shot at getting the votes in the end, or the rankings in the end, rather. And so I think I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say this is a bold one, and maybe my nepotism is showing. But I think I'm going to go with Woody as my winner pick.
Woody, I think that's a pretty good one. Woody hasn't been an influencer, like he hasn't been a blocking influencer before, so I don't think he's seen as too much of a threat. I think the top 3 contenders are Woody, Georgina, and Sammy, because none of them have really been up there at the top lately. Woody is climbing up there, and again, there's a good set of influencing potential left, and so if Woody is at the top for the next 4 blockings, then I think he's probably done for. Again, depending on who's in the final 4 and how they vote. But I think he's definitely a contender. I think Tim is probably out of contention. I think being influencer that often, even if maybe he is at the bottom of the rankings for the next 4 weeks. That would be the best thing for him. But he still manages to survive to the final 4. Then he'll have a shot, probably. So it's honestly probably too early to call at this point. There's too many blockings left to really know. Even once we get to the end, it's going to be hard to predict. So, but I think Georgina is in a great spot because she's never been super high in the ratings, but most people like her. And she has the sympathy card, and I think she'll be one of the few people in the final 4 with the sympathy card. It'll be her and Sammy. That Sammy has a baby, and Georgina has Chromes. And so that's good for her. So. And I think she's playing like fully tactically at this point. So I am not concerned that she's going to screw herself over by voting poorly. So I think Georgina could take it for sure. I think Georgina probably has the biggest edge, followed by Sammy, followed by probably Woody, and then Ella and Tim are definitely in there depending on how the following week plays out. And then definitely like dark horse Patty. It's really hard to see Joyce, Jan, or Josh getting in there though.
Joyce is as good as gone. I feel like Jan is just going to take the place as the older woman of the tribe. And Joyce is out of there. And
I will say though, like if this super influencer thing plays out a certain way, like let's say Georgina gets it, takes out Tim, and then it's like it's a madhouse. Like who got Tim out. Like, how dare they? And it's a witch hunt to try to figure out who got Tim out, and people start turning on each other. That's where, you know, Joyce and Josh and Jan could maybe get themselves in there with a shot. But barring any of that, I think it's one of the originals plus Ella, maybe Patty, but probably not.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption as well.
Yeah.
Even though I love Patty. Like, yeah, he's cool.
All right. I think that's it. We'll probably, or at least I will. Certainly, I would love for Amon to join me, but I would love to do at least one more stream before the finale and maybe one after, if we could, just to keep on talking about this, because especially once we get down to the finals, it'll be really interesting to try and predict the final rankings and how that will play out and what the optimal strategy is for everyone.
Yes, I would love to come back. So just let me know whenever you want to talk about it again. And I mean, I talked a little bit. I did like a little Periscope last night, and I was saying, like, I haven't really felt like this little rush of excitement about a show since I first watched Big Brother for the first time. And it's just so nice to find, because I agree with what Richard Navely said when he was a guest on the show, and he said, like, this is like cutting edge. It really is. It's a very, it's just a very clever idea about how it's just, you know, and it just checks a bunch of boxes, right? It checks the social commentary on social media. It has like your reality TV element to it. It has like like the whole catfishing element to it. It has, you know, your drama. It has your heartwarming moments. It has like a good casting. The casting is so strong, and it has good narration, and it's just good, and it's just getting better. And the twists are a little bit cringy. I'm a little worried, but we're still in a good spot. And I'm really excited to see how this goes, and I'm so excited for the Netflix version. I really hope that America does not screw it up, because y'all know how sometimes we be doing stuff over here. But I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, it reminds me of Big Brother in the sense that it's definitely like over the top goofy, like I could do without the reality TV trimmings, but there's a fun and interesting game part of it that I really enjoy. There's a really entertaining sort of like drama, like compelling sort of, you know, human emotion element to it. And then there's also like a really interesting sort of like a human nature, how we interact portion to it. And like I grew up like learning lessons about social interaction from Big Brother, because that can teach you about, in a very weird sort of way and weird form, about how we interact with each other in real life when you watch Big Brother. And I feel like The Circle does something very similar, but in a completely different area, which is not only social media and how people interact via text message and all of that, but also, you know, sort of like the vulnerability that they have via messaging, via, you know, with people that they just met, you know, days into it. Like Patty comes out with his disability just, I think, a day or two into being in The Circle. People he's only chatted with a few times at this point, because he can't even chat with them all day, and he is terrified at how they're going to respond. And then he gets like the validation, he gets the support from people who barely know him, have never seen him before, and it floods over him, and he's like, this is like the best moment of my life. And it's so fascinating to watch how affected these people are by these chats. And like in some ways it feels like people are more vulnerable when they don't have to see the person. Like it feels like, I don't know if this is a new thing in society or if it reveals something else about human nature, but it feels like people are more willing to expose themselves and be vulnerable when they are just, you know, behind the keyboard, which is a little bit different than how I think we normally see sort of keyboard warriors, where like, oh, they're willing to be attacking and all of this stuff, but also I think willing to be very, very open and vulnerable in a way that they wouldn't be in person. And
I think it's
and then also seeing their honest reactions to the conversation, real time, like basically reading their mind, going through the conversation. So interesting, so fascinating. That part of it is really, really cool.
Yeah, I was going to make that point, and also that, like, I mean, social media really does get a bad rap because of, you know, all the negativity that can surround it, which is very validated. I mean, social media can be, it drives a lot of people to do sad things, but on the flip side of that, it also can bring a lot of people together. And I feel like that's not really shown a lot. I feel like that's not an experience that we talk about too much, because it's just overshadowed so much by, you know, all the negativity, especially when it comes to reality television. But I think for me in particular, it was such a wonderful experience, because it was validating for me in a sense, because I feel like, I mean, cultivating this persona on Twitter and meeting all of these people online and then meeting them in person, a big part of me going into it was like, this can't be real. This is also fake. Like, none of these tweets matter. None of these retweets matter. All of this stuff is just so fake. It's like it's a separate part of who you are, but in a lot of ways, it really isn't. Like, social media can be such an extension of someone, and it doesn't have to be this facade. And that's why, and I like that the fact that we get to see just how different people are able to behave on social media when they are catfishing versus when they are themselves. And it can be such a fruitful thing for people. And I like that that's highlighted, and I like that is that's valid. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You can be vulnerable and not necessarily, you know somebody that well yet, and that can be something that leads to a wonderful friendship. So it's so great. It's so great. It's hitting all of my proclivities. It's just I love it so much.
Yeah, and like I love like the line that people have to walk between brown nosing and being genuine, and like when people post statuses. And it's like everybody starts to like the same post, and like you're seeing like, oh, everybody's liking it, I like that one, and then you see the person like, oh, everybody loves my post, and it's like, oh, well, like they just didn't want to be left out. Like it's so interesting, like the different ways that these things go, and it feels like it is a more level playing field than most of these shows, because usually it is like this similar people who look the same and come from the same general place and have the same general background. They're all gonna, come group up together immediately based on physical aspects, and just kind of like group up, and then that's the social formula for the season. But the way that The Circle is played out is so much different. In The Circle, Tim is the most popular person. That would never happen in Big Brother. Even if Tim is the most lovable guy ever, he, like all of the other people, will have been hanging out together, cuddling, canoodling, spending
talking
all their time.
How they love Tim.
Yeah, spending all their time together, talking about, oh, Tim's so great. He was probably in the military at some point. And Tim would have been, taking naps and going to bed early and waking up and all of that stuff. And Tim would have been essentially an outcast by that point. But in The Circle, Tim is the most popular, and it does feel like that articulates something that I feel like I've noticed in the discrepancy between sort of what seems to be the American culture based on what you see online and what American culture generally is based on what you see in person, which is that online it is much more evenly spread in terms of like anybody can be popular online. Like if you have a funny idea or a funny, you know, way of saying things or like whatever, you know, it's like the old guy who you know, who you'd never look at him twice on the street, has 1 million followers because he's like a really endearing and charming guy, and he's very popular online in a way that he never has been in real life. And you think that, like, oh, that's just the culture now. But in real life, that's not really how it goes still. In real life, you still have probably high schools where it's still the jocks and the nerds and all of that stuff. And it's very interesting to see that dichotomy being displayed in The Circle versus Big Brother versus whatever, where it does feel like social media is an equalizer in a lot of ways. But probably it's just an equalizer in it's probably just looking at a different part of who you are, if that makes sense. Like social media is for the people that can be good at social media. You know, high school is for the people who can be good at high school. You know, workplace is for who can be good at workplace. There's probably no true equalizer, but it's still very interesting to see the different ways that this works.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's there are definitely people that have sort of mastered how to create a viral figure, as it were. And I definitely think that there are people that are out there that are like that. But I also feel like with social media, it does. I do think that it can be a bit of an equalizer because of the fact that you are, especially when it comes to social media platforms that are more based on text, and that's why I like Twitter so much, is because I'm absorbing people's thoughts and not necessarily what they look like. So I feel like in a lot of ways, as long as ideas are put out there and I like them and they're popular, I feel like anybody can. That idea can come from anywhere, and typically, you know, in the real world, you're more likely to want to listen to people that look like you or that act like you or that have similar interests in you, and therefore all of their ideas are good because of the fact that you are getting all these visual cues. But in a game like this, it's stripped away because you can't really always you can't really trust your eyes because that could be a catfish. You know what I mean? But whatever they say to you, you're so resonating. Alex there, like they were like, oh, I mean, I you know, he obviously this might not be Kate, but I still like what he's saying, so let's just keep him around. And I really do like that, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just the optimist in me. Maybe there's a way that society can kind of that point to want to listen to people's minds before we listen to their looks.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can get there, but I think that's probably why the show is just such a cutting edge thing for me, is because of the fact that it's sort of like it's sort of like seeing the world not as it is, but as it should be. And I like that.
In the future, when we all have custom made robot bodies, then, you know, it'll be a whole new thing. You can look whatever you want to look like. You're good.
No, right, and that's coming. I mean, video games are about to be virtual anyway. We're all about to just spend our lives in a video game. Like Ready Player One was on to something. Yeah, okay, this might be a simulation now, for all we know. That's a talk for another day.
All right, that's our circle chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, we'll be back hopefully at least once before the finale, maybe once after the finale as well. And we'll talk some more. Make sure you check out the interview I did with Nicole. 3.5 hours of Nicole content.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
3.5.
It was even longer in real life.
What was y'all talking about there? What was y'all talking about?
Lots of connection problems, but.
Oh, okay.
But it was a lot of fun. She was great. Like, you know, and I said this before, but like, it's so hard to do these with the players, especially, you know, fresh out of the game. But that's also like the best time to do it because they have the least amount of preconceived notions about what happened. But like, it takes so much work to get them to remember things. So like, It's like week 3, this happened. What were your thoughts? I think I was thinking. Okay, well, let me help me some more. This was happening. These things were said. You said this to this person. Oh yeah. That was probably because. Well, it was. I think what you were aiming to do was this. Oh yeah, there it was. Okay, I got it. And then, but with Nicole, it was just like so. Week 3, this happened. She was like, "Oh yeah," and this is what I did. And I was like, "Yes, that was in my notes. Good job." Thank you, Dippin' Dots, for the cheer there. But yeah, Nicole was great. I should be talking to Jackson, hopefully, in the future. And then we'll have a roundtable. I will probably reach out to Christy as well. It's as long as people want to see it. But that'll probably be it for the postseason stuff.
I think that that's a good idea. I think that she probably needs it.
Well, I want to talk to her. It's just it's sometimes people don't want to hear from people, but yeah, I've seen a lot of people want to hear from Christy, so that's good. It makes me feel good about reaching out to Christy. But I want to make sure I get Jackson in, and then we'll work on Christy, and then we'll probably do the final roundtable.
People were saying they want to see Tommy. I think did you already do it on Tommy?
I did see Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
you already did Tommy?
Bambi, thank you for the cheer there. Yeah, I did Tommy, Cliff, Nicole, Jackson next. Then we'll do Christy, and then we'll do the final roundtable. Man, I gotta bump up my timetable even more next season, because it's really just like, can I get the interviews in quick enough before they learn who Brent is? So that's the quest. Can I do it? Can I do it before they realize I'm associated with Brent?
I was about to say, maybe we just need to, like, it's just the cast. Like, they just have to, you just have to get a cast that Brent's not going to find anything to rant about, but that's just never going to happen. So, yeah, that's a tough one. I stand with you there. Good luck with that. I still have I recorded the video of him just going off on production, because it's just so funny to me. I literally have like a gif of him going, "Fuck you, production, fuck off." So yeah, good luck, Taryn.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for chatting with me in the circle here, Aman. It's been so lovely chatting with you.
Circle, open message. Thanks again for having me on. Can't wait to have another chin wag with ya. It's been great. Thank you to the chat for supporting. Keep sending the bits and the cheers, whatever they are. Send.
It's been a fucking bant, man. I've loved it.
It's been great. It's been great. I posted a video of me speaking in an accent, and somebody British was like, "Okay, that was like 5 different accents." I'm sorry. At least I know that there are different accents.
You're a true fucking geezer, man.
There's an Essex. There's London. There's like a posh accent. I'll make it my homework to pinpoint one and practice that one. That's my acting homework.
All right. Kiss.
Kiss. See you later.
Love heart.
Love heart. Aubergine emoji. Send. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, Darren.
All right. See you guys later. I'm trying to find the hangout. There it is. I need to close out of the window. All right. Once again, check out Hoodie Allen. I think that's all I got. Yeah. All right. See you guys later.